Hey guys, what's going on? It's Gunnar here. Welcome back to the channel. Now, it's the end of August. We're getting very, very close to season open. Here in Wisconsin, September 13th is opening of bow season, and I cannot wait. I can promise you guys that. But I'm here talking food plots again today. You know, as you guys know, I drilled all my fall plots in about a month ago to the day. And that whole system of cover crop, drilling into that and then using that mower to knock down that cover crop and create that nice mulch over top, really panned out nice here again this year, as I assumed it would. But I kind of want to talk about how I'm approaching my layerings of winter rye going into the end of August here this month and then into September right before season opener. Now, the reason that I'm picking winter rye as a layering option to create a lot more tonnage, fill in any bald spots within these plots, and then just fill in underneath where my highly diverse fall blend is already planted, is because it is extremely attractive deep into the hunting season. Winter rye is extremely attractive not only during the early season when it's young and lush new growth, but it's also going to retain that attraction all the way throughout into the late season because it's going to remain green. You know, a lot of times once the grain crops, the soybeans, the corn is all gone and those alfalfa fields are browned out because of the freezing temps, that winter rye is remaining green. So those deer are targeting that specifically. If you have large acreage or large plots with winter rye within them, you can expect those deer to pound them during the late season when they're looking for something green when it's the only available option. I personally drill all my ag fields in winter rye as a cover crop, and it's doubling as another massive food plot. But it's not only attractive for the deer, the turkeys, and even the rabbits, but it's also extremely hardy when you're talking about the temperatures that this stuff will tolerate. Winter rye is actually going to germinate down into that 34 to 33 degree range. Now, I don't know another seed that's like it that actually will germinate in that low of temperatures just above freezing there. And then it's actually going to continue to grow well into the 40 degree range and then into that upper 30 range as well. Now that slows dramatically once it hits like 38 degrees. It slows dramatically as far as how fast and rapid that's growing. But in theory, by the time you get temperatures down that low, you shouldn't need any more growth on it. It should have enough tonnage with all the pounds per acre that you're planting layered in here that you should be able to sustain that winter and those deer herds coming in here and feeding on these plots. So it's extremely attractive, easily palatable, it's easy to grow, it's extremely versatile as far as when you can plant. You know, a lot of these seed varieties, you know, they give you a deadline. You have to plant by second week of October or September 1, whatever it is. As far as brassicas, you want to get those in by the first week of August or a little bit after down south. But with winter rye, you can spread this stuff at any time of the year virtually, and you're going to get growth. And it's going to benefit your deer herd. It's going to benefit your food plots. Now, the other extremely important thing to touch on as far as why winter rye is it's so cheap. I just stopped at the Agri Center here this afternoon because I'm going to be doing some more seeding here tonight. But it was $13 for a 56-pound bag of winter rye. Now, when I'm talking about broadcasting at 100 to 150 pounds per acre, that goes a long way. You know, a lot of my plots are that third of an acre, quarter of an acre, so they're not huge. So on the plots that are a third of an acre, I'm just throwing the whole bag, which is a little heavy, but that's fine with me. And on these smaller plots, these, you know, eighth to quarter acre, I'm doing about half the bag. I've got a couple of those, so it splits up that bag evenly. But I'm working in that about 100 to 150 pounds per acre ratio. And I felt that works out really nice. You get a really good lush carpet. And I'm doing 2 seedings. Now, I've done 3 and I've gone heavier before. And that was strictly to control weed competition. Now, a few years ago, we had pigweed ridden in all of these food plots. And it was terrible. It was overtaking the entire plot. And we could not alleviate the problem. So, you know, I started thinking, okay, what can I do this fall to still salvage these plots, You know, even though when we planted that fall blend, that pigweed just erupted, how can I salvage these plots, get a lot of tonnage quickly so I can still have a good hunt this fall, but how can I get started on the right foot in next spring? Well, what I did is I came in here and I broadcasted about 300 pounds per acre of Winter Rye on all of these plots. And what that does is once you get that Winter Rye established in the fall and you already have 2 to 3, 4, 5 inches of growth on it, that stuff doesn't have to establish a root system in the springtime. It's already ready to go. So this is an annual that's going to come back in the springtime and then grow out its life cycle and then reseed itself. So what I did is I broadcasted and I allowed that rye to come up in the fall, and it carried me through that season. A lot of attraction, a lot of deer numbers on these plots, but then in the springtime it came back. And the cool thing about Winter Rye is because it grows at such low temperatures, it outcompetes a lot of the weed competition that you are normally going to see in your food plots. So this Winter Rye was already 2 to 4, 5, 6 inches tall. By the time it got 45 degrees, that stuff was already growing. And a pigweed seed hasn't even thought about starting to crack open and grow yet. So that set me up for success into the future. So that's the cool thing. It's allelopathic. Winter Rye is allelopathic, which it emits a chemical compound into the soil, and that suppresses the surrounding competition. So that's why the timing, as far as when you're layering, is so important, as far as allowing that first planting, your fall blend, your main blend, allowing that to get a head start. I planted at the end of July. It's the end of August right now, so this stuff has a 2 to 3 week window where it's already starting to come up and it's growing well. It's off to a really good start. Now I'm coming in with that Winter Rye, and we haven't had rain for a few days, so I'm just banking on that dew in the morning to crack open those seeds, a little bit of seed to soil contact. Not a lot is needed when you're talking about Winter Rye. I had some growing in my truck bed this summer. It grows just about anywhere. So you're filling in around the blend that you've already planted. And when you're looking at a brassica blend where you're going to have bald spots within that food plot because you can't plant those brassicas too tight, Winter Rye is a great option as far as filling in those bare spots within your plot and just doubling up on the tonnage that you're getting, the food value you're creating in those food plots, and then you're prolonging that activity. Now the reason that I'm doing the multiple different seedings, I'm layering twice, is because when I layer here at the end of August, by the time these seeds germinate and start growing, the deer are going to be on them right away because it's that lush new growth. And so, you know, you think about a time frame of maybe 2 to 3 weeks before this stuff starts growing. You know, it could be as early as, you know, 5-10 days if we get some moisture here, but I'm looking at time periods. You know, Winter Rye is going to be the most attractive when it's really young and it's lush. It's that 1 to 4, 3 inch range. So that's what I'm targeting. That's when the deer are going to target that Winter Rye. And so I want to have as many time periods when that Winter Rye is 1 to 3 inches as I possibly can. Hence the multiple seedings. So I'm coming in here at the end of August. So that way, by the time opening day rolls around, I've got a lush carpet of Winter Rye that's 1 to 3 inches tall the deer are hammering. Now, right before opening day, I'm going to come back through here and I'm going to hit it again so I have another 100 to 150 pounds of fresh seed sitting on the ground. So by the time that cracks open in 5 to 10 days, could be sooner, could be later, based on precipitation, I have another jolt of extreme attraction because they have lush new growth coming back again. So I'm never losing the attraction and the pull of these plots because I always have fresh new young growth coming, and that carries me through that early part of October where maybe these oats are starting to lose their attraction a little bit because they're too tall. Maybe I'm out of forage peas because the deer have hammered them, or the beans are gone because the deer have hammered them. So it just replaces that early season blend that I planted in my fall planting, and I'm replacing that with that Winter Rye, and that's going to carry me through that October period into November, late October, when these deer start hitting the brassicas and start eating them away. You only have so many brassica, right? I love brassica, But everybody knows you can only plant so much, and when they're gone for good. So replacing what's getting removed out of here with that Winter Rye has been the ticket to a lot of my success and consistently creating that attraction in these food plots year long. So this rye grows so quickly, it's very browse tolerant. You know, it's consistently growing. It's growing so late into the fall that it's really resistant to that browse pressure. And if you have a lot of tonnage of that rye, if you have a lot of stems per acre of that rye, you're going to be able to hold up. Even if you have high deer density, you're going to be able to hold up and keep that herd healthy, keep that herd attractive, because you're not running out of food, right? A lot of brassica plots are going to be destroyed and gone by the end of October. With this method of layering that rye, multiple layerings, and replacing all the plants that are getting browsed off and killed right up until that opening day mark, is going to keep those plots viable just later into that season. It's going to have that consistent attraction later into that season. So if you don't happen to stumble into a buck and get them killed in October, you still got the month of November. And everybody knows once November hits, those bucks are shifting right back onto the food. They're trying to pack it back on. Those temperatures are starting to plummet, and you can slip onto a buck on a late season pattern and get them killed then. So that's why I love this whole system. You know, I've got so many different diverse plantings going on in these plots. I've got those winter peas, I got the late planted soybeans, I've got the oats in here, I've got that residual red clover filling in around as well, and then I've got the brassica. So all of the oats, beans, peas, and that clover is going to be an early season magnet. But by the time they browse that off, I'm already hitting it with that Winter Rye and replacing all of the forage that's been killed off and browsed down. I'm replacing that with that Winter Rye. By the time they start hitting the brassicas, I'm starting to replace that as well. So when those brassicas are gone, I'm not left with nothing here. I'm left with a lush green carpet of Winter Rye going into the late season, so these plots are still attracting a lot of deer. Now, like I said, I plant Winter Rye on all my ag fields as a cover crop, and that is mainly because of the allelopathic properties as far as killing that weed competition right away in the springtime. So then I come through, plant directly into that with those ag fields, but it's also doubling as another huge benefit for deer food at the end of the year. That is, if it comes up and I get it planted early enough to get some growth on it. Last year, it was extremely impressive. I drilled that Winter Rye into the ag fields. We hadn't seen rain in weeks. I bet you we were in a 2-3 week drought without any rain throughout that month of October. I drilled it late October. And when you're drilling a seed into the ground, precipitation isn't required because there's already going to be moisture underneath that top hard pan of that ground. You're going to have some ground moisture, and that was just enough to get that germination of that rye seed and get it coming up before it even saw any rain last fall. So that's another benefit of this. Yes, we're broadcasting into here, but as we start pushing into those cooler temperatures into the fall, early fall here, a lot of those dewy mornings are going to be enough moisture to crack this seed open and get it growing for me. And we're going to have a beautiful carpet of Winter Rye growing among all of these other diverse seed varieties within all my plots. Like I said, 100 to 150 pounds per acre. If you guys have a massive weed issue and you want to choke those things out early next spring, go a little heavier and let that stuff grow, and then all you got to do is roll that stuff over and you can plant directly into it for next fall as well. So it's a really full circle process that I'm on here. You know, whatever cover crop you decide to use, Winter Rye seems to be one of the best that I've found. You know, buckwheat, Winter Rye, red clover, crimson clover, they're all viable options. Winter Rye, as far as I've found, is the cheapest, it's the easiest to grow, and I tell you what, it is the most attractive that I've found. If there's one seed that I could plant, I think it's gonna have to be Winter Rye, strictly because of all the benefits, all of the properties that go along with it as far as the attraction, the ability to seed it really heavy, the cover crop aspect of things, retaining moisture, putting a lot of root systems into the ground, creating a lot of water channels, a lot of nutrient pathways. It's a really clumpy root, so it's really digging. The organic matter that it builds the sheer attraction that the deer have for it, the ability to layer multiple different times throughout the year to consistently have those young shoots that the deer are loving, to stay green all winter, and then the price point cannot be beat. So if you guys are trying to fail-proof a food plot this season, maybe you didn't get those timely rains needed in the last month here, you're trying to salvage what you can, if you gotta do something, pound it with Winter Rye and let it grow and have a great hunt this fall.